This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, sponsors of the 2025 Rule Natural Resources Investment Symposium, held July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida, or via live stream in the comfort and convenience of your own home. Regardless of how you choose to attend, live or live stream, there's a few things about the conference that you need to know now. First, over 4 days, we're going to present between 50 and 55 hours of intensive but valuable programming, more than you can absorb in the 4 days that the conference takes place. To that end, we will record, the entire proceedings, including all of the breakout sessions. And these recordings will be available for you to replay over the course of a year. You'll need to. We're going to give you a lot of information, and that information is very valuable. But in addition to that, we're interviewing every public company exhibitor before the conference so that you can have the opportunity to study the issuers and even reach out before you even arrive at the conference or allocate time at the conference to those issuers that you want to know better. This is our attempt to allow you to deploy your time and capital at the conference more efficiently. Know one other thing. Unlike any other investment conference in the world, every single public company exhibitor at our conference is owned in the accounts of the people who run the conference. Sadly, as some of you know, there's no guarantee because I own a stock it goes up, but there is a guarantee that every single company has been vetted. We turn down more exhibitors at this conference than we accept. So let's get started. I have the good fortune today to interview somebody who I've invested with a while, who has become a friend over time, Mr. Christian Easterday, CEO of Hot Chili. Christian, first of all, thank you for years of toiling on behalf of investors. Thank you, too, for your ongoing sponsorship and support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Thank you, Rick. It's great to be back and great to be speaking to you again.
Before we begin talking about Hot Chili, let's talk about Christian Easterday. Tell me something about your career trajectory, how you ended up as CEO of Hot Chili, and frankly, why our attendees, should care how you answer the nosy questions that will follow.
Sure, Rick. Well, I'm a geologist by background, mineral economist, over 25 years in the industry, but most importantly, I've led Hot Chili as a founder from its inception for the past 17 years and 15 years on market. We took on a very, very challenging task to build a major copper producer from scratch. We're 15 years into our journey, on a journey that typically takes around 20 years. So we're very much excited to be getting to the pointy end of bringing one of the few independent large-scale copper projects to the market in a very challenging time for the copper sector.
You started off with a decent but small-ish indicated resource that, if I remember correctly, you somehow took off the Chilean government. Could you talk about what's happened in the ensuing 17 years and talk something about the size and tenor and character of the deposit today?
Yeah, correct, Rick. As you know, we started this from scratch, conceptually looking to place ourselves in Chile to secure a large-scale footprint. And this has been really a consolidation effort over many, many years. Initially, we were able to secure deals with Chilean government agencies, majors, private families, and we started consolidating this area 600 kilometers to the north of Santiago, but most importantly, down on the coastline on the Pan American Highway, next to port, power, and all of the infrastructure you would require to build a large-scale project at low cost. So it's been a 15-year effort to consolidate this land holding. We started with one discovery, as you know, very small. I think our first resource was around 120 million tons, and that has grown obviously substantially over the years as we added to the initial discovery in Productora with Cortadera, San Antonio, and now a very exciting discovery in La Verde. But what we have now is a 1 billion ton coastal copper play that, with a completed pre-feasibility, and over that journey in securing assets and securing all of the permitting required to build one of these projects, we also secured extremely important water rights for this entire region, but most importantly for our coastal copper project called Costa Fuego.
Tell us something about the water asset. That's not something that one normally thinks about in terms of mining, although in the Atacama, the driest place on Earth, water is an important asset. Tell me where the water comes from and the potential importance both to the product, but the pardon me, the project, but also to the community.
Yeah, well, look, time has a way of creating interesting opportunities. Uh, I wouldn't say that hot chili was a visionary. We simply made a discovery back in 2010, ran initial metallurgical test work, realized that our discovery and productora was capable of being processed with salt water or ocean water. About a quarter of the production out of Chile are from projects that use seawater for processing. So we were very, very lucky in that respect. We applied for a license when we were watching all of the telltale signs of a country moving towards regulatory change to solve what was an increasingly large issue to global copper supply, but most importantly, to copper supply out of Chile, which was water stress in the Atacama. And in our time with hot chili and developing this asset, we now find ourselves in a regulatory environment where the largest mining companies in the world are all building desalination plants to replace their extraction of continental water, which is now no longer able to be permitted to build new mines and to operate mines. So we see a big transition that has created one of the probably most attractive investment jurisdictions for the global water sector into Chile to effectively provide the desalination water supply future for the Chilean copper sector, which stands to unlock significant new copper supply. So we have a water license which took us 10 years to secure, one of only two licenses given out by the Chilean government in the past 18 years. We have the right to supply our project with seawater, but we also have the right to potentially provide desalinated water to an entire region where there is only one maritime concession controlled for that region, which took the company, as I said, 10 years to secure. And we've now looked to take that on as a business opportunity, to not just look at our situation as a large copper developer, but now as a potential regional water supplier to unlock probably one of the largest clusters of undeveloped projects in Chile and potentially the world, sitting right next to our project. So it is something that we've been talking about a lot. We've just delivered a pre-feasibility and put our first numbers out on that. And we're seeing a huge amount of interest from some of the world's largest companies, including BHP, developing their nearby Filo and Jose Maria assets with Lundin. In terms of just how these licenses might be able to be utilized for a regional water supply business to effectively fast track all of those developments, which at the moment don't have a water solution.
Let's back up and talk about your project. It's interesting that you talk about the Lundin BHP projects. Those are way up in nosebleed country, 4,500 meters, 5,000 meters. Your project is different. If you could talk a little bit more about how close to the coast you are, how close to infrastructure you are, and how close to things like towns with copper miners living in them.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Well, one of the key differentiators recently has been water, but the key differentiator with hot chili from the beginning has been location. Down on the coastline at 700 meters elevation, in comparison to nearly all of our peer projects, which sit above the Andean snow line, and as you said, most of them are typically above 4,000 meters in elevation. And what that means is that we're developing a project in a very, very different basket. These coastal projects like Manto Verde, just delivered and executed on by Capstone, or Minsua's project up in Peru. They have very low capital costs to build. They have very competitive operating costs when you're down at low elevation next to port on the Pan American Highway, and with your own electrical transmission connection. So Elevation is a key differentiator for the project. That differentiator shone through in the economics of this project. As you would know, in the global copper sector, we're seeing a rising capital intensity or a hurdle to these large new supplies of copper coming into the market. And that is only getting worse. And elevation is probably one of the key contributing factors to why these projects cost so much to build, to put out a ton of copper. By comparison, what Hot Chili has is a top quartile copper production capacity, a circa 100,000 tonne per annum copper project with a 20-year mine life, coming in a near-term market. But most importantly, we have a bottom quartile capital intensity project because of that elevation advantage. And we have a project that is putting out C1 cash costs at close to the top of the first quartile. So that elevation differentiator is really key as to why this project is very different to nearly every one of our peers in this space at that scale.
Let's talk sequentially, copper first, water next, about what the next steps are. What are the catalysts for unlocking value? Where are you with the copper project? How do you advance it? What's the next step? What are the hurdles?
Sure. Well, look, we've just delivered a pre-feasibility with the post-tax NPV at an 8% discount and long-term consensus copper and gold prices of about 1.2 billion US. We've also delivered an NPV on our water project, conservatively on the seawater startup, but then looking to the future as to what a desalination opportunity looks like. That's adding another 1 billion US of post-tax NPV on the first stage of desalination, as well as seawater supply to Hot Chili as its primary customer to start up. So that's our starting point. What we're now engaged in is really a transformation of the capability of the company. We've appointed Stuart Matthews as chair. He was executive vice president of Goldfields for the past 13 years and has got serious credentials, overseeing some 5 large-scale mines delivered over his time with Goldfields. And then in addition, having Alberto Cerda join our company as project director. And there's not many of the largest mines in Chile that haven't seen Alberto either delivering, executing, constructing, or operating. So some great wealth of talent coming into the company. We're in an optimization phase for the pre-feasibility at the moment, and we're looking to kick off that bankable study at the end of the year. But what is really exciting for the company, when you have 2 large-scale assets, and when we added our second asset, Cortadera, that transformed this coastal production hub into a 1 billion tonne resource play, you wouldn't have thought that we could bring in a third asset. So the discovery of La Verde in the last 6 months, 30 kilometres down the road, putting out wide, high-grade intersections from near surface, 100-metre intersections at 0.7 copper, 0.3 gold. That's very, very pleasing. I imagine that will be the focus of the company on growth over the next 2 years as we rapidly integrate that into our mine plan, into our resource base, and add in a significant amount of bulk tonnage extension, pushing our mine life out from 20 towards 30 years. That's really, really important in this space. But also with those kind of near surface, higher grade results coming out, where we're looking to add a substantial amount of open pit, higher grade material to the front end of this mine plan. So some really, really transformational catalysts that are being developed by the company.
So your combined indicated NPV exceeds $2 billion. What are the capital expenses? I realize it's double counting, but how much money do we have to spend to generate 2B and change net present value?
Yeah, to generate 19% IRRs in the industry, in the water industry, is really, really at the top end. So we took that as the basis for calculating the economics on the water project. The copper project to a company like Hot Chili is a little bit more of an understanding that we're sitting around about the same cost to build as we generate the NPV on those long-term prices. We are talking about around 2.2 billion for about a $2.2 billion spend. So a profitability index ratio at 1, which is entry point, but that's in a long-term consensus environment. So what we have is a great capital challenge, as every junior taking on a large project would have. But what is very different with Hot Chili is we have a pathway to provide the equity financing to build this project because of that strategic water asset that we're developing, that we're looking to monetize, and that we're looking to sell down. So our approach to capital and to financing these projects is to effectively utilize the water project to be sold down to pay for a large component of the equity side of the financing on this copper project. We also see a rising copper price environment. I have no doubt that that the price of copper is probably pushing northward. We're in probably one of the tightest concentrate environments I've seen in my career. And most importantly, we see a significant amount of enhancement with the addition of Easterday to this mix, on really just pushing upward on that NPV and that NPV to capital ratio. Those things are very, very attractive to bank financing and to the equity markets. On top of that, we haven't really touched any of our precious metal streaming on this project. And so we've really held back a lot of our optionality in terms of how we will finance this. But at the moment, what we are undertaking, which is probably more to focus on, is a partnership process. We are speaking with many, many groups globally on our copper project, on our water project, and we're seeing a significant amount of interest in the financing of Hot Chili's final investment phase, and looking for partnership opportunities that can work with Hot Chili to develop this asset into what would effectively become one of the top 60 producing copper projects in the world.
Christian, let's talk about the wrapper in effect. We've established at least an indicated $2 billion net present value. Note that incorporates the capital cost for those who don't understand that. How much is somebody paying for $2 billion in net present value? What's the market cap or enterprise value of Hot Chili?
Yeah, that's really critical here. So we're sitting with an Australian market capitalization of about $80 million. Let's call that 50 million US to make the maths a little easier. So that is about one of the biggest discount stands at the supermarket, and there's no use by date on this, Rick. You typically see this where a little junior takes on a very, very large project. There is a significant discount to the underlying value of the asset. That is why the company is focusing on asset level partnerships. These assets transact at pre-feasibility in the market at around 0.2 to 0.3 of net asset value. Now that is many, many, many multiples above where the market capitalization of Hot Chili trades, and we are trading at a discount to our North American peers, which sit in nosebleed country with less advanced assets, with a longer time frame to production. So we have certainly not gone unnoticed, or else I wouldn't be sitting with as many non-disclosure agreements executed as I have. So we have a significant amount of interest in the asset, in where it sits in that space, and the discount it's trading to, and that's why the company is focusing on that. So what is really a key catalyst for us moving forward is bridging that valuation gap between our market capitalization and the underlying asset value that could be monetized at this point in time.
Christian, it looks like you, like everybody else, will work 2 decades to be an overnight success. Thank you for 17 years of toil on our behalf. Thank you, too, for the ongoing sponsorship and support of the symposium. Tell me, if our people are interested in buying $2 billion in net asset value for $50 million, and probably they should be, who specifically do they contact, and how do they reach them?
Sure. Well, our website is very friendly. You can jump on and join up as a subscriber, and you can also contact me directly. I'm always very happy to speak to all shareholders and potential investors, and and you can reach out to us on www.hotchili.net.au, and we look forward to all inbound inquiries on the company.
Christian, thank you again. I look forward to hosting you in Boca Raton.
Look forward to seeing you then, Rick. Thank you.